Hey, so welcome back to part two. This is the second level here. And like I was saying in the other one, the previous episode, this was the last game that Romero and Carmack and pretty much the original team worked together on. And it's kind of sad because who knows what else they would have came up with and what other games they would have worked on, because it really is another classic. And the reason this turned out the way it did is it's actually much different than they originally planned. They wanted a much more immersive storytelling kind of game, loosely based off Quake, which was one of the characters from I believe it was Dungeons and Dragons. Like a lot of their other work was inspired, like Doom especially was very much inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, and it has that Lovecraft kind of feel, you know. And I remember when this first came out, I was kind of taken back a bit because I love the 3D graphics and the polygons, but even back then something seemed a little bit off, and that had to do with a lot of the animation and stuff. The more I go back, the more I like it, and the more nostalgia there is. It really is classic stuff. And the older you get, the more nostalgia you have for a lot of the old school kind of games and things that you witnessed when you were younger. I mean, there was so much stuff going on back in the day. Um, that it really is fun to step back and check everything out, and to go over this stuff and kind of explain to people from my generation and the newer generations. Like, the feeling you get from these kind of games is nothing like the newer ones, because everything was brand new and really mind-blowing. All the stuff that you end up, seeing, like all these tricks and traps and the three-dimensional shapes. Really classic. And so what happened was there was a lot of tension in the team with Quake, because they had to come up with a whole brand new technique of showing off their games, and a whole new engine. A whole new engine that had never really been done before. So it was hard to get everything to go the same way. So the more they would work on stuff, the more they'd have to change things, and new elements to the engine would come out, the game engine, which is what the whole, the building blocks, how you make the building blocks to the game. And I can only imagine what it's like to have to restart everything over and over again. I mean, the one thing though, I mean, they were still getting paid. They still had lots of revenue coming in from Doom, but it can still kind of be like a depleting on your morals. Someone who's worked on games myself, I kind of understand how it can kind of get where it's just very crushing when you work on something and you really like it, and then turns out you have to change it. It's like all that work that you ended up, you end up putting into something. You kind of have to get rid of it, and it's kind of unfortunate and sad in a lot of ways. You can only redo something so many times before you kind of fall out of love with it. And so it's not the easiest thing, As much as I would have loved to have, like, the stuff like that was amazing to witness. but it all had to go through, trial and error. Especially when you have someone like, John Carmack coming up with all these things for you, and the sandbox to play with. Romero did a lot of the Quake editor, um, and he was working on some other projects too at the same time. So I just want to go back and go through these teleporters and grab some extra stuff. So, you can only imagine what it's like. But, I mean, even now, looking back, it must have been really nostalgic to look back now and see everything. And coming up with all these graphics. Adrian Carmack, it's very Doom-esque still in a lot of ways. A lot of these textures, the gray palette, gray-brown palette. Though one of the reasons they chose limited colors was to save room too, because remember, like, old school computers back in the day still had to render all this stuff, and 3D animation and polygons all at the same time was very complex for the computers back then, and it's a really, really fun thing to check these out again. So I'm just going to go to the next level. That was relatively quick. And I'm going to try to get all the secret levels at least. I'm not going to go for all the secrets because there's plenty of videos on that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's continue this this one-way conversation into the next video. Leave some comments below, and I'll check them out and react to them and continue the conversations that way. So I'll see you in the next video.